Hello. In this final video, I'm going to show you the easiest way to animate a rig in Moho and how to export your animations. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our bone layer that contains the rig we just made. So this would be our flower layer. And to create our animation, we need to create a keyframe by using the Manipulate Bones tool. So I have the Manipulate Bones tool selected, and I'm going to move my playhead to frame 1. Now I'm going to select the bones and move the character into its starting pose. So I'm going to move my character to the left. And as you can see, these little dots have now appeared on my timeline. These are keyframes. And as you can see, there are a lot of them. So each of these keyframes represents a change in the bone's rotation, translation, or scale. But as a beginner, this is really intimidating. There are a lot of keyframes that I'm going to need to control. So to make things easier, I'm going to turn all these keyframes into one main keyframe. And I'm going to do this by going to the Animation tab and selecting Consolidate Layer Channels. Now, as you can see, all the layers have turned into one main keyframe, which is much easier to control. So now we have our first keyframe, and I'm going to go ahead and create my second pose. So I'm going to move my playhead to frame 24. And I'm going to again use the Manipulate Bones tool to move my character. And in this case, I'm going to move her to the right. And now I'm going to play my animation. So that's great, we got the beginning portion of our animation complete. Now I want this character to return to its left position. And I'm actually going to do this by copying and pasting the keyframe. So I'm going to select the keyframe that's on frame 1, I'm going to right click, and in the pop-up, I'm going to select copy. Now I'm going to move my playhead to frame 48, and I'm going to right click on the timeline and select paste. Now I have copied and pasted my first frame to frame 48. So now when I play my animation, my character starts from the left, and then goes to the right, and then moves back to the left. And I want this character animation to loop. So I want this flower to continue moving right and left for the entirety of this project. I could copy and paste each frame individually, so the animation could repeat itself, but Moho has a way to quickly loop animations. So we're going to right click on the last frame we created, which is on frame 48, and select Cycle from the drop down menu. Now in the keyframe window, we're going to leave Absolute selected so that frame 1 through 48 will be repeated. And we're going to leave the input as 1. And now when we play our character, the animation continues. So we have our character animated. So the next thing I want to do is I want to animate these clouds so they're moving across the sky. And if you notice, we didn't rig these clouds. We didn't put them in a bones layer, and we didn't add any bones to them. This is because we're going to animate the layer itself. So we're going to select Cloud 1 from the Layers panel, and we're going to use the Transform Layers tool to move it across the sky. So I'm going to move my playhead to frame 168, and we're going to drag our layer so that it's outside of our canvas. And as you can see, a keyframe has been added. Now let's play the animation. So yeah, we have our layer that's now moving across the sky, and we still have our character dancing left to right. Now let's animate Cloud 2 the same way we did as Cloud 1. So select the layer and then use the Transform Layers tool to move it across the sky. So I'm going to move my playhead to frame 192, and I'm going to drag it outside of my canvas. So let's play our animation again and see what it looks like. So we got Cloud 2 to move across the sky, but it's currently appearing on top of the flower layer, so it's actually covering our flower. I want it to move behind the layer, so I'm going to select the cloud layer from the Layers panel, and I'm going to drag it so it's below our flower character. And now, when I play the animation, it's moving behind the character. So yeah, we got both of our clouds moving, and we got our character animated. And now we're ready to start exporting the animation. To export our animation, we need to go to the Files tab, and we need to select Export Animation. In the pop-up, we're going to export our entire project. That would be frame 1 to frame 240, and it's actually currently set to frame 1 and 240, so I'm just going to leave that as is. We want to export this as a video, so I'm going to select video for the format. Next, I need to select where I want this video to be saved onto my computer, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. And lastly, I need to name my project, so I'm going to name this as Dancing Flower Animation. Once I have all this filled out, I'm going to select OK to start exporting my video. So once we press OK, this pop-up is going to appear and Moho is going to start exporting our animation. This part will vary depending on what computer you're using, but once it's done exporting, the exported window will disappear and the video will now appear in the location you saved it in. So in my case, it's on my desktop. And when I select it, we can see our final exported animation. And that's it. Now you know how to rig, draw, and animate in Moho Debut. I hope this video series was helpful for you in learning the program, and that's all I have for you for this video series. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope to see you in the next video.